HuiMing was an ordinary young man who lived in a small village. He practiced at the temple and had always been one of the most diligent disciples. However, he had a secret deep within him, a secret he was afraid to share with anyone. His fear. He was afraid of the dark. Whenever the sun set, the stars came out, and the world was cloaked in darkness, an unsettling feeling would wash over HuiMing. He couldn't explain this fear, but it haunted him and made him feel trapped. HuiMing's friends couldn't understand his fear. They found the night to be beautiful and filled with mystery. But for HuiMing, the night only brought endless unease and darkness. He was also afraid of being alone, of the silence. Despite these fears, HuiMing was unwilling to give up his Zen practice. He knew that inner calm and liberation were essential on the path of Zen. Therefore, he decided to go to a Zen monastery and share his fears with the elder monks, hoping to find a way to overcome them. In the monastery, the elder monks listened quietly to HuiMing's story and then smiled, saying, "HuiMing, your courage and honesty are admirable. We will help you overcome these fears, but it will require your effort and determination." The elder monk advised HuiMing to go to an abandoned temple on the mountain and spend a month there alone, seeking a solution. HuiMing accepted the advice, knowing it would be a challenge. But he also knew that only by conquering his inner fears could he truly progress on the path of Zen. HuiMing prepared to journey to the abandoned temple on the mountain. The task seemed simple, but for him, it was a formidable challenge. Carrying a small backpack with basic food and clothing, he set out on this journey. The mountain path was rugged, and he slowly made his way along a narrow trail until he finally reached the abandoned temple. It looked decrepit, overgrown with vegetation, and exuded a mysterious atmosphere. The temple's main gate had been abandoned, leaving only a rusty iron door that creaked when he pushed it open. HuiMing entered the temple, and it was silent except for the wind rustling through the ancient walls, producing faint creaking sounds. He settled into a small room, lit a candle, and prepared to begin his practice. During the day, HuiMing practiced Zen meditation and recitation. Although he still felt lonely, the daytime fear was relatively manageable. However, the arrival of night always plunged him into deep terror. The night's curtain fell, with scattered starlight streaming through the windows, and HuiMing felt the rising anxiety in his heart. On these nights, HuiMing began to hear strange sounds as if someone was walking in the temple's corridors. But when he checked, he found no one. Sometimes, he saw ghostly shadows flickering on the walls, seemingly beckoning to him. These experiences intensified his fear, making him feel trapped in the abandoned temple, unable to escape. As days went by, HuiMing's fear seemed to grow stronger, and he began to doubt if he could endure this challenge and conquer his inner fears. However, he also knew that only through this difficult time could he find the true path to overcoming fear. HuiMing continued his daily practice in the abandoned temple. He tried to understand the nature of his fear, despite the difficulties and suffering, knowing that it was only by facing his inner demons that he could find peace and tranquility. This was a part of his Zen journey, a dialogue with his own inner self. In that abandoned temple, HuiMing continued his practice for several weeks, facing daily internal challenges. However, on one cold night, his life took an unexpected turn. While huddled in a corner, trying to fend off his fear, a mysterious stranger suddenly appeared at the temple's entrance. This stranger was a tall figure, dressed in ancient monk's robes, and had a kind smile on his face. HuiMing was startled but felt an inexplicable sense of comfort. The stranger approached him and said, "Young man, why are you so afraid?" After a moment of hesitation, HuiMing honestly shared his fears and the challenges he faced in the abandoned temple with the stranger. The stranger nodded and said, "I am a Zen master, and I heard of your challenge. Fear is an emotion everyone faces. It is an illusion, a creation of your own mind. When you learn to confront it, you can see its true nature. Fear will no longer be your enemy but a friend, teaching you to grow." The stranger initiated profound discussions with HuiMing, explaining that fear was an inner prison. The first step in overcoming fear was to face it. Only by truly confronting one's own fears could they begin to weaken. With the stranger's guidance, HuiMing gradually understood that fear did not come from the external world but was a reaction from within. He learned to remain calm in the face of fear, allowing it to exist without resistance. The stranger taught HuiMing deep meditation and how to embrace his fear, not resisting it but coexisting with it. He told HuiMing that true liberation came from inner awakening and understanding of one's inner nature. This encounter changed HuiMing's life. He no longer felt alone, for he had found a true mentor. He continued his practice in the abandoned temple, but now had a guide to help him transcend his fear. Under the stranger's guidance, HuiMing continued his practice. Each day, they sat in the temple, engaging in profound conversations and meditation. The stranger shared much wisdom about Zen, teaching HuiMing how to conquer his inner fear and gradually transcend it. He told HuiMing that fear was an illusion, a product of thoughts and emotions intermingling. Only through mindfulness could one discern the origin of fear and recognize its illusory nature. The stranger said, HuiMing, fear is not your enemy. It is a mirror reflecting your inner turmoil. Only by looking into this mirror can you truly know yourself. During this time, HuiMing learned to sit resolutely on his meditation cushion. No longer avoiding his fear, he closed his eyes, took deep breaths, and focused his attention on the fear within. With each deep breath, he tried to understand the nature of his fear more profoundly. Over time, HuiMing's inner peace grew, and he began to realize that the source of fear was rooted in concerns about the unknown, regrets about the past, and self-blame for imperfections. These emotions and thoughts intertwined in his mind, forming the structure of fear. The stranger taught HuiMing to trust his own abilities and accept imperfections through deep introspection. He showed him how to dissolve fear gradually and return to inner calm. HuiMing couldn't overcome his fear overnight, but his inner strength grew, and he understood that fear was no longer an insurmountable mountain but a fleeting mist that revealed the truth within. This experience with the stranger not only helped HuiMing understand how to overcome his fear, but also made him realize the value of his inner self. Under the stranger's guidance, HuiMing's inner world became increasingly tranquil and serene. He persevered in deep meditation, focusing on his breath and the depths of his inner self. Every day, HuiMing sat on his meditation cushion, closed his eyes, and took deep breaths. He learned to let go of external distractions and remain present. His breath became his guide, leading him into the depths of his inner self. In deep meditation, HuiMing began to observe the fluctuations in his inner world. He saw how fear was created and sustained by memories of the past and worries about the future. HuiMing learned to focus his attention on his breath, allowing his thoughts to gradually calm. This process was not easy, and HuiMing often found his thoughts drifting back to painful past experiences or future anxieties. However, he learned not to blame himself but gently refocus his attention on his breath. The stranger told him that every return to the breath was a victory, and every deep journey into his inner self was a step toward liberation. With time, HuiMing's meditation practice deepened. He could maintain inner peace, no longer disturbed by external influences or inner fears. After each meditation, he felt a clearer and more peaceful inner self. The stranger encouraged HuiMing to continue deepening his meditation practice, telling him that true liberation came from inner awakening and freedom. HuiMing understood that this was not just a practice but a way of life, a way to maintain tranquility in everyday life. HuiMing's meditation practice continued to deepen, and he experienced inner liberation and tranquility. HuiMing's meditation practice became more profound, and he gradually realized that fear did not come from external sources but was an internal response. His inner world became increasingly serene, and he began to understand that true liberation could only be achieved through inner insight. In the span of a month, HuiMing underwent a profound transformation. His meditation practice reached a new level, and he was no longer afraid of the dark or of being alone. He began to welcome the arrival of night, appreciate the beauty of the stars, and feel the serenity of nature. On a clear night, HuiMing sat on the rooftop of the abandoned temple, gazing at the starry sky. His inner self was as clear as a mirror, and fear was no longer his prison. He felt connected to the universe, in harmony with nature. Suddenly, HuiMing felt an overwhelming sense of peace and freedom, a complete liberation of his inner self. He realized that fear was an illusion, a creation of the mind. It was a product of thoughts and emotions, a natural response to the unknown. In his inner world, fear was like a ghost in the dark, disappearing only when you confronted it. Standing on the rooftop, HuiMing felt in tune with the universe, and his inner self had experienced liberation. He understood that fear was no longer his prison but a mere illusion. His inner self was filled with love and tranquility, and he had made a significant breakthrough on his Zen journey. At that moment, HuiMing experienced inner liberation and understood that the true goal of Zen was not only to overcome fear but also to know one's true nature and find inner reconciliation and peace. HuiMing returned to the Zen monastery with inner peace and liberation. The elder monks and other practitioners were astonished by his transformation. They no longer saw the young man who was afraid of the dark and loneliness but a serene, confident, and wise practitioner. HuiMing shared his experiences in the abandoned temple, the discussions and teachings he had received, and the appearance of the mysterious stranger with the elder monks. The elder monk was inspired and said, "HuiMing, your journey is a great revelation. You have embarked on the true path of Zen, and your inner self has found liberation. You will be our teacher." Continuing to pass on this precious teaching, HuiMing was no longer afraid of the dark, no longer afraid of loneliness. He taught other practitioners how to observe their inner fears and find inner peace through deep meditation. He told them that true liberation came from inner awakening and freedom, and that only through inner insight could they find inner reconciliation and peace. His story spread throughout the Zen monastery, attracting more and more people seeking inner peace and liberation. HuiMing became a source of inspiration and guidance, and his Zen journey not only changed his own life but also had an impact on many others. HuiMing understood that the path of Zen was an inner adventure, a journey of self-dialogue. He felt inner reconciliation and peace, knowing that this was the most precious treasure of his life.